Welcome. Please open to number 119 in the gray hymnal. Rise in body or spirit, and join me in singing 119.
Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist congregation of Ann Arbor. If you're newer to our community or we haven't had the chance to meet yet, I'm the Reverend Manish Mishra-Marzetti, serving our congregation as senior minister. It's my privilege to welcome you today on behalf of myself and our chancel team. Whether you're joining us in person, live streaming from home, or watching on demand at a later time, it's good that we have chosen to be together in community this Sunday. As many of us know, our congregation has been meeting continuously in Ann Arbor since 1865, helping bring alive the vision of a free and liberal faith, one in which each of us is able to explore and discover what it means to be human as we support one another on that very human journey with our collective love and care. If you're newer to us, we're glad that you've chosen to be here with us today. We recognize that it takes courage to walk through the physical or virtual doors of a community where you might not yet know anyone. We hope that you will find here a like-minded people, one who share your values and your commitment to bringing those values alive in the world. If you're newer to us and here with us in person, we invite you to join us in the Redmond Room following today's service. The Redmond Room is outside those double doors, and it's the first room on the left. There will be members of our leadership who are available to you to answer questions about our congregation more specifically and Unitarian Universalism more broadly. If you're newer to us and are joining us by live stream, we invite you to take a moment now to introduce yourself in the chat. Please share who you are and maybe where you're joining us from. We know that there will be others there who are eager to warmly welcome you into that space. If you're joining us on demand at a time later this week, please know that you can reach out to any member of our staff, up to and including myself. We'd be happy to orient you further to our congregation as well as to our denomination more broadly. Last but not least, if you're newer to us, we invite you to take a moment, either today or after the service. You can go to UUAA.org/newcomers survey. We have a survey there for you to fill. Taking a moment to fill that out will help us stay in touch with you and let you know about upcoming events and activities in our community. In that spirit of upcoming events and activities, I have a couple of reminders for us today. Next Sunday, May 24th, is Memorial Day weekend, and as is our annual tradition, that is the weekend when we shift from 2 services on a Sunday morning to 1 service on a Sunday morning. The service time is 10:30 in the morning. It's in between what our 2 service timings typically are. That 10:30 a.m. service will be both online and in person. So please note the change in timing that will begin starting with next Sunday. 2 weekends from now, on Saturday, May 30th at 4 p.m., we'll be having our annual congregational auction with the theme of Ready, Set, Give. Now, if you've never been to an auction, it is a very fun, lovely event. It is not necessary that you spend oodles and oodles of money, but it is a fundraiser that goes to directly support the good work of this congregation in building and creating community and engaging in the work of justice more broadly. Please join us. It's a lovely event, and all the proceeds go to a good cause. Following that day, Saturday the 30th, the next day on Sunday the 31st, is our congregational meeting. It is one of 2 such congregational meetings that we have every year. These congregational meetings are opportunities for our members to gather and participate in important community-wide decision-making. Anyone can attend. If you're a friend, you're not yet a member, you're even just a brand new visitor, and you want to see how we make decisions as a community, you are most welcome to join us and get to learn about that work. While anyone can attend, only members of the congregation are able to vote on any matters that require a vote. On congregational meeting Sundays, we meet only online. So on Sunday, the 31st of May, we will only meet online at 10:30 in the morning, starting with an abbreviated worship service that moves directly into the congregational meeting. Advanced Zoom registration is required, and the link through which you can register and receive the link for the 31st of May is available on our website at UUAA.org. As we move into our theme for this Sunday, I want to extend our community's collective thanks to last year's auction winner, who is Brent Williams. Brent was the highest bidder on our auction's sermon, and as such, Brent helped inspire today's Sunday topic, which is a reflection on empire, domination, and what? Zombies? I know he was just as perplexed as you might be about how all that might come together. You'll just have to wait and see. For now, I want to invite you to take a breath or two as we ground ourselves and prepare ourselves for our time together in community this Sunday. Would you join me in a couple of centering breaths? May the grounding and stillness that we are always able to find inside of ourselves help hold us, help anchor us for our time together this Sunday. We are gathered for worship.
We live, as the saying goes, in interesting times. And I don't mean that in a good way. Try as we might, we struggle to remain hopeful in the face of all that threatens us and the values we hold dear. And so we gather, drawing from each other's presence the strength we need to carry on. What better way to begin our time together than by lighting our chalice? Its living flame draws us in, warms us, and reminds us that we are not alone. It dwells within us and among us, wherever we are and wherever we go. This morning, Don Windsor will kindle our flame in the sanctuary. And as Don comes forward, I invite those in our circle online to light your own chalice, and as you do, to enter your location in the chat so all may witness the reach of our light. Let us join our voices as together we say, "We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace." Thank you, Don. What holds us together as we sit in the glow of our chalice? What binds us to each other? We do not share a creed or use the same language to express our understanding of life or its meaning. And yet we are one community joined in love. It is our covenant that guides us as we journey together. It shows us how to be with one another and brings us into right relationship. Our covenant is the roadmap to our communal heart. Let us renew our vow as together we say, "The spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another."
When I was a kid growing up in Minnesota, we had some serious snowball fights. The neighborhood was divided, and we'd make walls and trenches, which were really easy in Minnesota because they get a ton of snow that never melts. One time, though, my side kept throwing snowballs, and the others took forever to throw anything back. Now, how can you have a battle if they aren't going to fight? We got impatient. We're throwing ours, and nothing was happening. So we got impatient and snuck over to their side, and they weren't making snowballs. They were making tables and chairs and a snow family to sit on them. It was pretty cool. So we ran back, brought over our stash of snowballs, and we helped grow the snow family with them. I made a snow dog. Well, it was really more like a snow blob, but it was the best snow day ever. Sometimes you just don't know how a battle will begin or how a battle will end. Now, some of you are thinking, "Lady, it's 81 degrees outside and you're having us think about snowball fights." In my defense, it was just a few days ago when we were bringing in our flowers, right? Because it was a frost night, so Michigan weather. Anyway, I would like to have your participation this morning for our story. So if I say little, when I'm about to say little country, I'm gonna go like this, and we're all gonna say little country. Let's try it. As opposed to a big country like the United States, we're gonna say little country. Ready? Our time for all ages this morning is The Conquerors, written by David McKee. There was once a large country that was ruled by a general. The people believed that their way of life was the best. They had a very strong army, and they had the cannon. From time to time, the general would take his army and attack a nearby country. "It's for their own good," he said, "so they can be like us." The other countries resisted, but in the end, they were always conquered. Eventually, the general ruled all the countries except one. This was such a little country that the general had never bothered to invade it. But now, it was the only one left. So one day, the general and his army set out again. The little country surprised the general. It had no army and offered no resistance. Instead, the people greeted the soldiers as if they were welcome guests. The general installed himself in the most comfortable house while the soldiers lodged with the families. Each morning, the general paraded his soldiers and then wrote letters home to his wife and son. The soldiers talked with the people, played their games, listened to their stories, joined in their songs, and laughed at their jokes. The food was different from their own. They watched it being prepared and then ate it. It was delicious. With nothing else to do, the soldiers helped the people with their work. When the general realized what was happening, he was furious. He sent the soldiers home and replaced them with fresh ones. But the new soldiers behaved just as the others had. The general realized that he didn't need a large army there. He decided to return home and leave just a few soldiers to occupy the little country. Once the general was gone, those soldiers hung up their uniforms and joined in the daily life. The general returned home triumphant with his soldiers chanting as usual, "We are the conquerors! We are the conquerors!" He was glad to be back, although somehow it was different. The cooking smelt of the cooking of the little country. People were playing games from the little country. Even some clothes were those of the little country. He smiled and thought, the spoils of war. That night, when he put his son to bed, his son asked him to sing to him. So he sang the only songs he could remember, the songs of the little country, the little country he had conquered.
Once a month, we invite into our pulpit a member of one of our social justice groups to speak of their work and their dreams. Today, Mike Muha will update us on our congregation's long partnership with Habitat for Humanity. Please give Mike your warmest welcome.
Thanks. You know, that story kind of reminds me of Habitat, bringing people together for the good of the whole community. And coincidentally, I'm here to talk about Habitat. Talk about how UUAA and Habitat have worked together for over 25 years, how this partner fits with our congregation Vision 2050, and how it builds resilience for the community. Housing has long been a part of who we are. From decades ago with Project Transition and Sanctuary at the old church, to our work in recent decades with Alpha House, Habitat, Restorative Justice, and others. There are two types of housing to consider, temporary and permanent. We're fortunate that Ann Arbor has a well-organized, robust, if not robustly funded, network of agencies and nonprofits who help our unhoused people find temporary shelter. We can be proud to be helping the Interfaith Hospitality Network at Alpha House, as well as other agencies as shown here. We're also helping to build long-term community resilience by supporting families who want to purchase their own homes. They want to raise families in a safe neighborhood, but they have trouble qualifying to buy the increasingly expensive houses in Washtenaw County. That's where the work of Habitat for Humanity of Huron Valley comes in. We're part of what's called the Good News Group. It's a group of 13 congregations who have worked together since 1998 to build houses here. We've helped 40 families moved into highly energy efficient houses and strengthened whole neighborhoods in the process. Habitat also supports neighborhood home improvement projects and neighborhood cleanup days. A week ago Friday, I was one of 120 people at West Willow working on some of the houses there and cleaning things up. The question is, where are all these Habitat houses? There they are. In the early years, we built a couple houses in Ann Arbor, but lately, most have been in Ypsilanti, in the West Willow or the Galt Village neighborhood. And this slide is showing the good news houses we worked on. There are a lot of other houses that other groups have worked on, as well as the houses in the home improvement project where make it more energy efficient or safer for people. And who are the families? Industrious, committed people. They put in sweat equity, take classes, pay a mortgage. Many of you may have worked with this family at the house, the Stovall family, that is being dedicated now. And recently, we dedicated the house to Amani Hassan's family on Furwood Street. And this is a picture of her with her 2 sons and with her parents. And her parents are also Habitat homeowners. And 38 other families, and there's a picture of some of them that we've worked with. So we want to thank you all who have been supporting UUAA's vision by building resilience in the community with Habitat for Humanity. You can learn more about Habitat, sign up for the work days we have left, or to contribute lunch at our table in the social hall. Look for the hard hat there. And you can also go to our webpage at uuaa.org/H4H. That's H, the number 4H. Again, thank you very much.
And thank you, Mike. As we turn now to our weekly offering, I invite you into a time of mindful reflection. Gratitude and generosity meet and inform each other in the work of UUAA's many committed social justice groups. Our visions are made real through the work of our hands and our hearts, our time and treasure. Our gifts ripple outward beyond these walls. Today's offering will go to support the programs and ministries of this congregation, and there are several ways for you to give. You may text UUAA to 73256, visit uuaa.org/giving, and select weekly offering for the fund. If you are here in the sanctuary and less inclined to the technological, the ushers will be by with baskets for your cash or check donations. And if you are a visitor, or if this is your first time with us, please know that your presence is a gift, and feel free to let the baskets pass you by. Thank you for your generosity, however it is you choose to give. I invite the ushers to please come forward, as this morning's offering will now be given in love and received with gratitude.
Hello. The year is 1776, and I, King George III, am not amused. The war of American aggression is not going well. Atrocities have even been committed against tea. This is my response. You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry, sorry, your tea which you hurl in the sea as you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember we made an arrangement when you went away. You're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. You'll be back, soon you'll see. You'll remember you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. You'll remember that I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Da 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 da. You say your love is draining and you can't go on. You'll be the one complaining when I am gone. And no, don't change the subject, 'cause you're my favorite subject, my sweet, submissive subject, my loyal, royal subject, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. You'll be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war for your love, for your praise, and I'll love you till my dying days. When you're gone, I'll go mad, so don't throw away this thing we had, 'cause when push comes to shove, I will kill your friends and family to remind you of my love. Da 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 da. Everybody, da 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 da. Da 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 da.
Wow, so much fun. Thank you, thank you. And now, as our ushers come forward, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we prepare to dedicate our offering. Rejoicing in the good work our gifts make possible, together let us say, to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Kristen. My pop culture loving heart loves it that we could work Hamilton into our service today. Just as empire doesn't want to let go, there are other things, other qualities, ways of being that also can get a hold of us and not want to let go. Older wisdom, deeper ways of knowing and being, like love. I want to invite us now, almost in a juxtaposition of energies, into a meditative hymn sing, remaining seated where you're at, turning to your gray hymnals. It's hymn number 315, This Old World.
Even
the invitation to love our neighbor, to show up as love, a beautiful and noble calling, one we're needing to return to over and over again in these times we live in. The challenge is it's not always clear how we should live into love. It's not always clear whether even love is enough, given the circumstances we're all in. Which leads us towards our auction sermon topic, once again with gratitude and appreciation for Brent Williams, with whom I engaged in about a year-long exploration of today's topic. Very much one that is grounded in the times we are living in, and a specific book that Brent chose for us, for him and I, to be in dialogue around. I want to read for you a couple of passages, the opening passages of this book. I'll tell you more about the book in a few moments, but here are the opening paragraph or two. No sensible reader of the news could look at America and think that it's flourishing. Massive economic inequality and the breakdown of families have eroded the very foundation of society. Once beautiful cities and towns around the nation have succumbed to blight. Cratering rates of childbirth, rising numbers of deaths of despair, widespread addictions to pharmaceuticals and electronic distractions testify to the prevalence of ennui and psychic despair. The older generations have betrayed the younger by saddling them with unconscionable levels of debt. Warnings about both oligarchy and mob rule appear daily on the front pages of newspapers throughout the country. A growing chorus of voices reflects on the likelihood and even the desirability of civil war, while others openly call for the imposition of raw power by one class to suppress the political ambitions of its opponent class. Unsurprisingly, the louder the calls for tyranny, the more likely the eruption of a civil war. And the more likely a civil war moves from cold to hot, the more likely it is ultimately resolved through one or another form of tyranny. What we are witnessing in America is a regime that is exhausted. That's from the introduction of a book by Notre Dame professor of political science, Dr. Patrick Deneen. This is his 2023 book entitled Regime Change. The notion being that if the current political order, that's the regime is exhausted. And if it's exhausted, if it's reached the limits of what it can mediate, what it can handle, then we must need a new regime. We must need a new political order. Among the book's reviewers, heaping praise on the book, are both Cornel West and J.D. Vance, whom I can assure you have read this book with very different interpretations. And I must admit, as has been the case for the two auction sermons thus far, I've been invited by those parishioners to read fairly dense academic books. We are an academic town, after all. And I haven't, at first blush, really cared for either of those books. I am, after all, UU through and through, with a whole rebellious streak. So if I'm being invited, read Forrest, to read a book I haven't chosen, I'm going to figure out what I don't like about it, at least at first. But I'm going to give you Professor Deneen's basic idea, his main through line, which is a point that has stayed with me. And I'm going to give it to you in my own words, not his, so minus the academic speak, and minus the breadth with which he explores it. Here it is. Our political system is exhausted, it is failing, it has reached the limits of what it can handle, and, part two, it's our own fault. Neither of those notions is either new or necessarily revolutionary, but his take on how the current political order, the political regime, has failed, how it has failed, is super interesting. While our system, in principle, is supposed to be egalitarian and it's supposed to be a meritocracy, in reality, elites, with a capital E, that I would add, a capital E elites, they have captured political and economic power, and they maintain control over that power with a stranglehold. These elites carve out relatively minor access points to political power and economic well-being among specific demographics or specific identity-based groupings, and the individuals who are given relatively minor power and or economic well-being are then acculturated by those elites and controlled by them. And in those various groupings, demographic or identity-based, whatever it might be, these mid-level-ish kind of folks who have access and certain amounts of wealth, they are pitted against other demographic and identity-based groups. What this means is they are essentially convinced that there's limited slices of pie, and look, you've somehow gotten access to some of that pie, maybe even a little bit of a bigger share than some others have. And guess what? You must hold on to that little bit of extra pie fiercely, because guess what? There's groups over there and there and there. They'll take it all from you. That narrative, that set of assumptions, keeps the working class fighting amongst itself, while the capital E elites comfortably continue to control everything from above. The mid-level layer of folks, those have been acculturated by the elites that owe their well-being to the elites. They are dispensable and replaceable, and they know it. In order to maintain their position, in order to maintain access to power, in order to maintain the well-being that they have found for themselves and for their families, they must, non-optionally, they must kowtow to the elites above them, or they risk losing everything. They are co-opted into helping maintain and manage the ability of the elites to remain elite. While what I'm describing here sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie, and there are, in fact, quite a few science fiction movies with this plot drawn out quite blatantly, this is a pattern, a well-established pattern, even a pervasive feature of the society we are living in. The key features of this pattern are domination, manipulation, and control. These are the primary tools, domination, manipulation, and control. These are the primary tools that the few consistently utilize to maintain status, wealth, and power over the many. This pattern is not new. It's, in fact, a well-trodden paradigm, one that's embedded in the history of humanity, And insofar as that it is a historical reality, we're quite comfortable talking about it as something that exists, that we can look in history books and say, yes, this existed in the past, decades or centuries ago, maybe even millennia plus. Much, much harder to talk about it as a present-day reality that we are actively living in the midst of. But let's take it as this historical truth that we are more comfortable talking about. In that concept of historical realities, this pattern of utilizing domination, manipulation, and control to maintain status, power, and wealth, we refer to it and know it as empire. Thinking of history, this is in fact an important week of historical significance. You can shout it out. What happened this week in May of 1948? The Nakba. So the Nakba is an Arabic word meaning catastrophe. It is how the people of Palestine and Palestinian origin refer to the events of May 1948. The language used by the government of Israel is that it was a war of independence. What occurred in May of 1948 is that a UN process, by the way, which wasn't great. The UN was a relatively new institution, and they were not handling any of this well. But there was a UN process underway that ultimately got completely sidelined by what became, eventually, the Israeli military, but at the time were militia groups that forcibly invaded and forced the relocation of Palestinians, seized their assets, including their land and building and access to resources. An entire populace, or the bulk of a populace, was dispossessed, and what was imposed on them was a political order that granted that dispossessed population no rights, no say, and no vote. They were not only dispossessed, they were disenfranchised. These are the modes of operation of empire. They are imperial in nature. Empire takes what it wants to ensure its own well-being, its continued existence, its safety, its security, its comfort, its well-being, its wealth, at whatever expense is needed, usually at the expense of others who are deemed to not matter or not count. The government of Israel's form of empire is 100% modeled on us, on the United States. We, the United States, we likewise displaced entire nations, took their land, took their resources. We too, in the form of the United States, based our comfort and security on the dispossession and disenfranchisement of others. But let's keep tracing the lineage back as we're doing. The United States didn't emerge out of nothing. Concepts of empire here in the United States didn't just magically appear. We are descended from, directly in lineage connected to, foundationally based on the British Empire, which did exactly the same thing globally. In Asia, in Africa, in Australia, in the Americas, and elsewhere. And guess what? It wasn't just the British. The British, the French, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Dutch, and others ruled the globe as empires that were ethically and religiously sanctioned in a doctrine of discovery which stated that those being conquered did not count as human if they were not Christian. You could kill them, you could displace them, You could take anything and everything that they owned. You could do whatever you wanted with them. What's fascinating, absolutely fascinating, these forms of imperialistic thinking, empire-like thinking, existed in parallel with, side by side with, the emergence of the Enlightenment. An emphasis on science and reason emerged. Didn't change imperialistic thinking or do away with it. Somehow these things were moving on parallel tracks. Fast forward a couple of centuries. Even a couple of centuries later, humanistic thinking emerges with an emphasis on the power of individual human beings to better their own lives and better society and the world around us. Humanistic thinking emerges, and we still, in parallel, continue having imperialistic thinking side by side with it, with an emphasis on domination, manipulation, control. This trend of empire continues through to today. In fact, we are in what I would call an Empire Strikes Back moment. You know, I had to work Star Wars in there somehow. Empire today, blatantly and openly reasserting itself. There's no need to even disguise it in the current time we're living in. And we see it openly played out, not just at the behest of our nation in places like Venezuela and Cuba and Iran, but also Ukraine and Taiwan, among other places. The thinking that fuels empire has been with us a good long time. And Dr. Deneen says that we need a regime change. We need a new political order. I would argue that regime change is coming whether any of us here want it or not. If humanity stays on its current climate change trajectory without any other intervening factors, and certainly to date, decades into the environmental movement, decades and decades into it, collectively humanity is not changing that trajectory. So if we remain on the trajectory that is not changing, despite decades and decades of activism, the entire global order, the mess that it is, but it's familiar, we at least know it, that global order will collapse. I don't want that future to unfold, but it is one very real, very possible trajectory for humankind, and that trajectory is an apocalyptic one. Which brings me back to popular culture and the stories and the movies that we often turn to help us express things that we don't know how to talk about or that feel uncomfortable talking about. You know, it's fascinating, and I've shared this in earlier sermons, the amount of fictional literature, television shows, and movies that portray different versions of apocalyptic scenarios in which everything that humanity has created comes crashing down. It has grown exponentially over the past 20 to 30 years, exponentially. If you don't know that that is a major theme in television, movie, and books, you're avoiding it on purpose. We are having a cultural conversation that we don't know how to have at the level of art, at the level of pop culture, at the level of TV, film, and books. Because it's scary to say these things out loud, that we're on a trajectory that we don't know what to do about. among those various apocalyptic scenarios for humanity include the possibilities of zombies taking over the world. You know, I've wondered, perhaps you have too, what would it take for us as human beings to reimagine an economic system in which so many of us weren't working as indentured laborers paying off debts to banks? What would it take for us to build something better than an empire being run by corporations and elites wearing the camouflage of democracy? We might very well need an apocalypse to break the power and control that are suffocating us as a people. But then what? Let's say the apocalypse arrives and that the existing structures disintegrate. Then what? Now, this is where some of this apocalyptic genre stuff gets interesting for me. A while back in the 70s, the zombie movies, when they were making a huge, entree into television and film, they focused on the immediate events of like, what is the apocalyptic thing that happened and how do the survivors, what do they do? What do they have to do? It's matured as a genre. We now have things like TV shows like The Walking Dead, which have been around over 15 years with multiple spin-offs, 11 plus seasons, and in that particular genre, portraying what would happen after an apocalypse, imagining years and decades into the future beyond an apocalyptic event. And here's what that genre helped remind me. And it was actually quite disturbing to me as it kind of sunk in what The Walking Dead was specifically showing or bringing alive. Even on the other side of an apocalyptic event, years, maybe decades after that, humanity would still have people who are trying to do good, who are trying to take care of one another, who are trying to build community and live in community-minded ways. And we would still have people living in fear of scarcity and not having enough. And we would still have people who are resorting to violence in the name of protecting their own, and people who are resorting to violence to take over and own more than there is their fair share. This, for me, presented a very essential, even existential dilemma. Apocalypse or not, we can't escape the fundamental imperfections and fallibility of our own humanity. Human society might get rid of capitalism simply because it's no longer sustainable. We might get rid of this, what we're calling democracy, but is increasingly an oligarchy. But guess what? We can't run away from the fact that individually we feel fear, individually we feel scarcity, individually we don't feel safe sometimes, individually we feel like we don't have enough and we need more. And those things are the very ingredients. They are the ingredients that lead to empire. Empire doesn't emerge out of something else, something different. Those are the ingredients. Those ingredients are going to continue to exist, whatever our future looks like. Whether an apocalypse happens or it doesn't, those same human fundamental building blocks will continue to exist. It leads us to the reality that whether it's today, whether it's right now, or 100 years from now, we human beings still need to figure out how we're treating one another, how we're creating safety, how we're creating well-being not just for ourselves, but for everyone. That's really the key. How are we creating well-being and safety, not just for ourselves, but for everyone? I didn't like Professor Dineen's book when I first read it because his proposed solution seemed so pie-in-the-sky idealistic to me. In his book, he calls for a mixed constitution. Now, not constitution as in the written document constitution, but constitution as in the makeup, the physical fabric of society, the makeup of society. A mixed fabric of society in which it is non-optional, it is required that everyone, culturally required, a cultural expectation, it is required that everyone be in relationship with people who are fundamentally different than them, from a different class location, a different race, a different experience of what it means to be human. Whatever those differences are, fundamentally, you must, as a society, be having relationship and dialogue and conversation across all of those differences, and it is through that dialogue and relationship that accountability occurs. That we as a populace, as a society, can decide collectively together across those differences who might have access to more resources, why, and for what length of time. Accountability. Yes, some can have more. Maybe not forever. Maybe for some length of time. But maybe there's good reason for that. But we decided together. There's mutual accountability around the outcomes of the society. It's communitarian thinking. It's community-minded thinking in which everything gets decided collectively. Inequality might even be okay, but we would decide together for whom, why, and for what length of time. We may even, as a society, decide that our society wants to resort to violence, but again, we would decide collectively why and in what manner. Genuine participation, genuine ownership of process and outcomes, genuine mutual accountability to one another. It's pie-in-the-sky thinking. It's super idealistic, which is why I dismissed it in my first read-through. But guess what? This is not new thinking. It's actually communitarian, community-minded thinking, and while Dineen gives it a lot of poli-sci, fancy language overlay, it's stuff that has already existed in human society and continues to exist in pockets through to today, typically in indigenous societies that have organized and continue to organize around these kinds of communitarian principles. The Lakota, the Adawa, the Sami, the Celts, the Aboriginal people of Australia. The list is actually quite significant and quite long. The challenge is that the people, the human beings that have organized in these communitarian ways, their ways of knowing and being have been supplanted by the larger narrative of domination, control, and capitalism. We can build a new way. We can build something that is better than what we have today. In fact, it's not even new. It's a remembering. It's a remembering of all the ways of being that our ancestors knew and honored. And by that, I genuinely mean each and every one of us here. Think of your own ancestors. Go back far enough in your own lineages, and I promise you, there were people who were living in precisely these community-oriented kinds of ways. This is not new knowledge. These are not new ways of being. Everybody here has had ancestors who have lived in these ways. Ways in which none of us is disposable, ways in which all of us are included, ways in which we are not masquerading, disguising the notion of one vote for one person somehow yields democracy magically. That does not yield inclusivity. That does not yield egalitarianism of outcomes, egalitarian outcomes. We actually have to, at the level of culture, be community-minded. And we need not wait for a climate apocalypse or a zombie apocalypse to do better, because we know what's needed now. We are, in fact, in need of regime change, and we, as a Unitarian Universalist people, we are a people who know how to build. We're not afraid to build something that is different and better. And in fact, we know that our hearts, our spirits yearn for that better way. Let us be those builders.
All right, please rise and body your spirit. We're singing 1017 in the teal. That's 1017. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. Peace and freedom, every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Beloveds, go out into this new week and let peace and freedom be your cry. Your heart and spirit already know well that we can do better, that we deserve better than the structures we are currently living with, struggling with, battling with, confined by. Know that you're not alone in recognizing that which your spirit innately knows, so do these people, so does this faith. Go out into your new week knowing that your efforts to create and build different, to live in a better way, are not in vain, that you are supported and cheered on by this family in all that you do to bring love alive in the ways that we need. Go in love and peace until we're together again. Amen.